Hey there, good afternoon. It is 1:17. It is May 31st. It is Saturday afternoon, and I decided to take a little bit of break today. I was narrating my presentations. Like I said, I'm splitting these presentation because, the presentation is going to be used for the moral reset, as well as my presentation for employers. Okay, so I'm kind of changing them just slightly so I can use one copy for that and the other one for the entire series that I'm creating. But I was going over some information relating to human trafficking today, and I thought I'd mentioned it briefly. Okay, and I'm kind of like shouting out to Donald Trump mainly because, well, I mean, he's the head honcho, right? And I count on him to assist in a very indirect way. Okay. Anyway, and so I was thinking about, these things relating to dual affiliations. And, I had written out a script about vigilantes. Okay. And I was reading it. And as I was reading it, I keep thinking, when I think about information that is so important, like information that is life changing, something that's going to target a solution, like create a solution immediately, something that needs to get done like as soon as possible. I was thinking about the issue of, these people who have dual affiliations. Okay, some of these people are just taking instructions at that one time from people like Rex Laverne or whatever. And they can come in different forms. Okay, and I'm going to refer to these people as vigilantes, right? People who feel as though they want to feel like it's their responsibility to lay down the law. The law is already written. It is for people who are a part of law enforcement and people who create laws or whatever that have the jurisdiction to get involved with things relating to who you turn away from, like government assistance, and who or shelters and things like that. And generally these things are run by county and state organizations. Okay, now, in my case, I was talking about me being stalked by church groups. Okay, as a matter of fact, I woke up this morning thinking that it was really important for me to address my feelings about me being a victim of human trafficking here in Bakersville, California. I had, going through the scripts that I'm narrating, a lot of it comes back, the memories come back of me being set up on fake job interviews, being terrified, and then enjoying going to fake job interviews to encounter people that had a very sick, malicious look on their face, almost like a form of bloodlust, because this is basically what their religion has been reduced to. I kid you not. Okay. Now, like I said, I grew up wanting to study with different religions. I know that I studied with Jehovah's Witnesses on my own. I know my parents studied with Jehovah's Witnesses when I was little. I also visited churches on my own. I gave organized religion an honest try several times. Okay. So, me finding out just a couple of days ago, I mean, I already knew, kind of putting things together, because I knew that during my time of being targeted, whatever churches that I went through to, even black churches, okay, that I would encounter people who were very rude, or whatever. And I do understand that we had this Mormon affiliation with the Nazi thing. And then, of course, Mormons were keeping track of people's genealogy. I also understand that, Mormons were communicating with people like Baptist, Presbyterians, Lutherans, so on down the line. Okay. And so basically, you have this Nazi agenda that has filtered its way through different churches, even using different people of different races to promote their agenda of bloodline targeting. Okay. And aside from bloodline targeting, there are certain individuals that people just might have a grudge against, okay, for whatever reason. Okay. And they may be, I'm not saying they are, but they may be going into these data banks. I know in my experience of being a targeted individual, I would talk to people, representative. I'm intuitive. Okay. Donald Trump knows I'm intuitive. He knows who I am. He knows my genealogy, as well as just about anybody here in the United States knows. Everybody knows I'm extremely intuitive. And yes, I turn it off most of the time. Okay. But sometimes I have to be alert to figure out, okay, is somebody plotting against me? And do I get that feeling that they're in the past that people were plotting against me? There might be some sort of notation in some sort of data bank about me, who I am, and how I'm supposed to be treated throughout society. And do I think this is initiated by religious people? You bet I do. You bet I do. So I was thinking that, when it comes to these organizations, especially government, government organizations, whether that be things like Social Security office, post office, EDD offices, county, state, whatever, that's here in the United States of America, it needs to be in accordance with, the Constitution. Okay, so obviously, we do not adhere to any sort of religion in United States. So I believe that there could be vigilantes in different sectors of society that should not be in there, meaning that they're getting instructions from their church to behave a certain way at their job, even though they may have signed something like an employee handbook, perhaps maybe an NDA or something along those lines, saying that they're going to uphold the policies and procedures of their companies, but yet their religion is telling them to do something else. Now, I have mentioned this before. Okay, I've mentioned it a couple days ago, but when I started thinking about my script relating to the vigilante, okay, how people get it in their mind that, hey, I'm a Christian, so and so's not a Christian, she doesn't go to church, therefore I need to, number one, gossip about her, I need to limit her opportunities, I feel entitled to take things that belong to her. This sort of sick religious mentality, I would say it's borderline apocalyptic type delusion, whatever. Or I'm just going to call it religious delusion, okay? Just so it kind of umbrellas a lot of different things where people feel as though they have some sort of entitlement that God favors them so that therefore they can justify stealing and enacting things like terrorism onto individuals. Now, what I'm saying is terrorism is, okay, here's the thing. I, as a person who's been working for many years, off and on, okay, and I would have had a consistent, like, straight line employment history had I have never been interrupted by these vigilantes who feel as though they need to dole out who gets what, playing God. I'm going to dole out who gets what in life. Okay, so basically, they're saying, "Oh, we're going to limit her options. We're going to prevent her from doing this. We're going to, arrange marriages." They're basically going to try to put me on some sort of puppet strings. That ain't happening. Okay, but I'm going to say is that they want to dictate your life and tell you how you're supposed to live and try to set up arrangements, because I believe this community was conspiring against me at one time to destroy my life, possibly to set me up to commit suicide. Okay, why was this done? It was because of Rex Laverne, and I do believe that these people were getting incentives to participate. Okay, even people within my neighborhood that I'm living in right now. And yes, I'm well aware of it. Okay, so I understand that this mind control has been, has gone out through the United States. And I'm talking about, certain laws relating to blacklisting. Like blacklisting is literally specifically listed as a law here in California. Okay. Now, when it comes to the interstate commerce, I have been talking about that a little bit too, using things like online platforms to say, hey, ostracize this person. It's very similar to blacklisting people. And, preventing them from opportunities, conspiring against people using the internet and different platforms to do this. This is against the law. So these are the things I'm talking about, okay? But we can talk about those sort of things all the time. But if we don't tackle the dual affiliations, these vigilantes who feel entitled to, take over America based off of their religious doctrines, then this is the root of the problem. Okay, and it's not just religious. Some of it could be, white supremacist groups. Hey, and it's not just white supremacist groups. What if there are other races who felt that they were superior and felt like they had the right to deny that? Now, we're not really aware of those kind of groups because they don't get talked about much in the media, but they possibly could exist. Okay, the point is that they're supposed to be upholding these sort of employment laws, and also, these sort of agencies are supposed to be available to everyone. Now, when it comes to me, like I said, going back to my desire to have had a consistent work history throughout the years, I believe that I have contributed, through taxes and stuff like that. I believe that I am a productive member of society. Okay, the only time I have not been productive a member of society is one of these weird vigilantes gets it in their head that I'm not deserving of this. Okay, that is not the established rule here in this country. Okay, and so I'm basically saying to President Trump, as well as the government operations here in the United States, as well as members of Congress, so on down the line, that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. Okay, I had mentioned referencing departments like the Department of Human Trafficking, this sort of stuff. That does not mean, and I'm not saying they are and they're not, but like I said, there's a possibility that there could be vigilantes in this group. You know what I mean? And like I said, I think it's important that these sort of agencies have some sort of, reporting on who they assist, how they assist, okay? And, also making sure that these people have been satisfied or their issues have been resolved in some sort of way. Okay, otherwise it's not effective. You can collect data all you want to. Meanwhile, we still have people going homeless and whatever. Do I believe that religion is playing a big part in this issue of so much homelessness in society? Yeah, I do, because I believe these people are using religion to pick and choose who lives, okay? And this is important to know. Okay, so I'm requesting, and I'm not gonna like go through all the channels. Hopefully, by educating people on how human trafficking works, people will take this to the ballots or whatever needs to be done. Okay, like I said, for many years I stood out of politics. I figure I was living right. I figured the majority of people at least respected laws. We live in the most lawless society you can ever imagine. Okay, the very fact that they find my projects or me talking, referencing laws interesting shows that these people are either ignorant or they're just outright, ignoring the law. So this is my thing. What else did I want to talk about? I know that a lot of people I'm getting the intuitive message that a lot of people are expecting me to bash religion in my third quarter newsletter. Okay, I have noticed that religion has a lot of hypocrisy throughout the years, and this is one of the reasons why I chose not to be a part of religion. Okay, that was my choice. Okay, my silent choice. But since I was being bullied and never, I was bullied relentlessly in this community. Okay, and honestly, these people were evil. I'm going to tell you that I personally think that the Christian mindset creates evil in people. And that's what I believe. Okay. And for many years, like I said, they would bring me in for job interviews, knowing that they were trying to attack me, knowing that they were, they would sit there and compliment stuff like, oh, I like your earrings, knowing good and well they were trying to prevent me from being able to wear jewelry or the things that I want to do. Okay. So these people to me are nothing but evil. Okay, religion creates evil. Now, like I said, this is not in me in any way saying that, people should leave their churches or anything. Because yesterday I went for a walk and I saw people going to church and stuff like that. It makes sense, okay? There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But like I said, they need to understand. They need to take a step back. Okay, this is not what they do not get to pick and choose and pretend that they're God or this is some sort of divine intervention. No, it is not. When you really go down the chain, the whole chain, okay, this is a Nazi plan. Okay, that even black people are willing to participate in so that they can get, incentives. You know what I mean? It's sick and disgusting. Okay, and I'm aware of it. Okay, I'm aware of it. Okay, and like I said, I do believe that things have been getting a lot better. Okay, but I cannot stress this issue enough. People need to be talking about it. People need to have training sessions about it. It needs to be discussed because for a very long time we've had this Christian, missions or the Christ. What do you call it? God, it was so ridiculous. The term was so ridiculous. I think they call it Soldiers for Christ and all this other stuff. These people, it's not just some sort of cute little catchphrase that these people are sitting here talking about. These people take this stuff seriously, and they really do have it in their head that they have the right to make these decisions. No, they do not. Okay? So, I'm aware of how systems work. I'm aware of how corruption works, okay? And so this is what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? I have even been thinking about, I know I've had intuitive message where people think that I should be playing more of a political role. Like I said, okay? One thing about politics, the things that I feel I've already said some stuff that might piss people off because I understand that we were in a war. We were in a very covert war with religious people who wanted to be on top and basically steal and oppress people, right? It was like this us versus them thing, okay? And I'm not trying to be a target, okay? But I am trying to bring, clarity, and I'm trying to bring order, and I really shouldn't have had to do this because the laws in our country are so awesome, okay? Like I really do, but when I think about things that have been written, I really am impressed with with the work that the people put into this country, okay? I really, really, really am, okay? But somehow or another, it goes in one or out the other, or it could be an issue of, like I said, limited information through the education system, and people have options of how they get educated. Like private schools may be very maybe more highly indoctrinated than what we've had experienced in even our public schools. Okay, because even public schools withhold information. Okay, or try to lean a little bit one way or whatever. And if you get a religious organization that tends to think, oh well, we did this, 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 and this, and they ignore anybody else's accomplishments and accomplishments and their stance or what they've done for this country, then they start to believe that they are the rulers of this place. Okay, they need to take a step back. Now, I'm getting a little upset right now because, I've dealt with some things this morning that have got me a little concerned, okay, and it got me a little bit upset, okay. But my point is that, this country needs to be restored to order. And I do believe that, things are getting better. But like I said, I want to see things improve, okay. I hate to say it, but the way that Christianity has been taught to people, it has only perpetuated a criminal mind, and they believe that it's highly condoned and accepted, and it's not. It is not. Okay, so anyway, what else do I want to talk about? So yeah, I am going to briefly touch about it because I'm kind of summarize what goes on in my life during the third quarter. My newsletters are about my life, okay? So yes, I'm going to briefly talk about it, but mostly what I'm trying to get people to understand is that your religion is your choice. It is your choice. It is not a law. It is not required. It is not mandatory. Okay. Now, when it comes to the whole cloning issue, like I said, people have undermined and dehumanized, the clone population. My own father was, I realized, and it's very painful for me to think about, the kind of abuse that my father went through. Okay. And I understand that certain people that I care about get abused. Okay. Within my soul tribe. And literally, like I said, I'm a tough woman. Okay, and I'm always going to come up with an answer, some sort of law to reference or whatever. So I'm always really confident when it comes to me being able to stand up for myself. Okay, but right now I'm standing up for some people. Okay, who cannot stand up for themselves. So that's what I'm doing on top of everything else. Okay, so anyway, what else do I want to say? So yeah, when it comes to the religions, interfering with the lives of clones, okay, and reducing them down like we have nothing, like we're nothing, like they can use us, the whole Rex Laverne / Diana Ross collaboration, which literally I wake up at night and I'm going to tell you what, I get pissed off. Just because somebody, number one, Rex Laverne, thinking that he was some sort of righteous dude. He's the shittiest Nazi I've ever known. Okay, him and his dark-skinned Mexican wife. Okay, and then he thought that because he could sit here and collaborate with Diana Ross and then try to dictate my life and all this other stuff. All these people were nothing more than feeders. People who've done nothing for my life but caused problems, but they certainly want to have something from me. The answer, of course, is no. Okay, and I'm trying to teach people, not to let other people exploit them, okay? I mean, people use things like, oh, I'm your family. I don't know Diana Ross. I don't know her. I'm like, all I knew of her was, her singing and whatever, and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to let anybody walk over me. Are you absolutely out of your mind? You're absolutely out of your mind. I don't care what kind of title you have. You are not going to walk over me. Not in my country. You're not. Okay. Aside from that, she's never done anything for me. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not trying to bring it up, but it's just like, man, people and their entitlement, it just it goes too much. And I've come to understand, Mr. Donald Trump, that, people do not have a limit cap as to how much that they will exploit you or expect from you. Okay, they will literally, demand like your firstborn, your arm, your leg. People will just keep. You have no. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you know. Okay, because you work in the White House. You are the president. Okay, you understand a diverse group of people and their insane demands. Okay. And this is why you have to kind of corral them back into reality and be like, okay, no, I have to lay down the law. And this is what I'm doing. Okay. Because I'm getting tired of people, living contrary to how things are supposed to be. Okay. So yeah, I've dealt with their cruelty. I've dealt with their insinuating words. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I'm trying to let you understand that I dealt with very mentally ill people. Very mentally ill people who were extremely brainwashed with their religious jargon. Okay, not one bit of holiness do they even exhibit. Okay, everything about them tells me that they are not, they are just basically mimicking something from the pulpit that's giving them a little bit of self-esteem. And now, when that kind of stuff happens, it can be explosive. Okay, so people need to understand your religion is your option, that's your choice. Okay, the tenets of it, the doctrines of it, that's your choice. You chose that life. That is the life you chose. And so, what they were trying to do to me, Rex Laverne, and these other people, they believed that I had a good life, and they wanted to sabotage it. And in their mind, they were trying. And they were trying to sabotage it. Okay, and I am very peaceful. I don't sit here and do anything to people. Okay, but this is what they were trying to do. They were trying to destroy the quality of my life, to try to force me into suicide. That is exactly what they were doing. All the clerks, all the store clerks, my next door neighbors, blah 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 blah. All these people, okay, were in on it. Okay, because through church affiliations, and that's exactly the truth. I kid you not. Okay, so no, when it comes to me, understanding, this sort of kind of behavior, this kind of stuff has been done before. Like I said, this is something that, apparently originated here in the United States, these tactics of like, gang stalking type tactics. And then apparently, from what I understood, I read the history of it, that people in Nazi Germany adopted this from the American people. So white supremacist tactics have not changed. Okay, they just went underground. That's all they did. Okay, so and this is what's going on. Okay, now what else do I want to talk about? Okay, so I do get the intuitive message, and I have been getting this message for the last few weeks, that my purchases are going to be private. And yes, they should. This is another part of the vigilante type thing, okay? What they did not like is, Rex Laverne didn't like me, and I talked about this before. I get so tired of talking about it. He did not like me the fact that I purchased certain things at the store. Like I go to the 99-cent store. 99-cent store was my my little goodie place, okay? The place where I could spend $5 and still walk out feeling like, man, I just got $1 million. Like, it was that one thing that kind of gave me that little lift, okay? And apparently, their religious thinking, they're so demonic. They want to make sure that you feel the full impact of this hell realm 24 hours a day. There is no pleasure with this person, but he doesn't have the right to make that standard. And neither do his little flying monkey vigilantes. They don't have the right to make that call either. And I understand that he had an issue with me because I am a marijuana smoker, which is a legal here in the state of California. Okay, but at the same time, this is something that he held against me for many years, even before I even worked for him as an employee. Okay, I have bothered no one. Okay, but yet he was influencing so many people to hate me, to gossip about me, to mistreat me. And the reason why is because I'm somebody who takes care of their body. Okay, and so I dealt with a lot of morbidly obese women who were sitting here smirking with their little smile. And I get tired of people thinking that their failures have something to do with me. I am not responsible for anybody's failures. Okay, and this is the mentality that religious people do. And you know why? Because a lot of religious people have made bad decisions based on them being either forced, coerced, manipulated into their religions. Okay, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, they made that choice. That was still their choice. Okay, you can, and if your religion is still being oppressive like that, then you need to speak up. You need to speak up. Okay, but that's not my responsibility. Okay, you don't have the right to sit here just because you're unhappy with yourself and use things like Jesus as an excuse. Because I'm going to tell you what, and like I said this before, okay, in the Bible it talks about gluttony. Okay, so people like my sister who had problems with their weight and hated themselves, they always wanted to take it out on me. That's not my problem. Okay, what does the Bible talk about gluttony? I don't believe that God approves of being fat. Okay, but yet you want to sit here and bash me. Get real, people. Just get real. All right. So anyway, yeah, Donald Trump, I really need your help, and I also need the Senate. What you call the executives, all of these people, to understand the importance of this dual affiliation and these vigilantes who walk around with these really big heads. Okay, basically the genocidal people. Okay, and I have to giggle. I giggle like when I see black people or Mexican people, and they're sitting here. Well, this is back in the past when I was really heavily being targeted, when they were being, basically, soldiers for Christ. All this crazy stuff. It's like I'm looking at these people like, do you know you're nothing but a puppet for the Nazis? Do you understand? It's like, how dare you get in my face with that nonsense? You know what I mean? I get tired of it. And yes, they will put your name in a data bank and sit here and act like they're doing that. Meanwhile, while they were helping and they put names in data banks and shunning certain people, we had this issue of people removing the DEI, making sure these clowns were going to die too. Okay, so I get tired of people with their lack of knowledge, their lack of intelligence, sitting here trying to tell me how to live my life. How fucking dare you? Excuse me, Mr. President. That was not for you. That was for the people, because I have every right to let that out. Okay, now I do care about people. Like, I walk up the street every day, and lately on my walks, I see this little girl. She's a cute Mexican girl. Okay, I love Mexican kids. Okay, she says hi to me all the time, and I say hi to her back, and that makes me happy. Yeah, I do care about people, and I hope that the world is going to be a better place for people like her to live. You know what I mean? She's a woman. She's going to grow up to be a woman one day. Is it going to be safe for that little girl? I certainly hope so. Okay, but meanwhile, these Nazi people were working their magic, their brainwashing stuff, and these people were literally digging their own grave. You know what I mean? Because the operation, their new world order did not include dark people, including that stupid Nazi dark Mexican bitch. Okay, wake up, people. Anyway, I am so mad right now. I can't even handle it. But anyway, so yeah, I am still going to mention, how, websites need to change. Because like I said, oh, and I think this is important. I think I mentioned this before, but I don't think I uploaded this video. I know in the past, like my soul tribe would help me, find jobs. And I think that's wonderful. But I am not going to be looking on Indeed.com, okay? I am steering clear of Indeed.com. I am hoping that, websites will start changing, start making sure that there is no ghost ads, ghost postings. And until I can ensure that can be promised to me, I am staying off of things like Indeed.com. If you want to reach me, either just have the employer come out and reach me through via email, or communicate through the EDD office. Okay, that's the Employment Development Department. I know that I've gotten jobs by the EDD before. Okay, but Indeed.com, I'm just not looking. I am definitely going to be looking for people to listen to my seminar this week, sometime this week. Okay. And like I said, when it comes to me trying to make income, I'm always gonna try to cover my bases. Okay, I'm somebody who is well aware of what kind of world we live in. Okay, and not one person in this community has any right to stop me. Okay, I don't want to deal with any stupid vigilantes. I don't want to deal with any smirks or anything like that. And this is no disrespect to anybody. Okay, but I understand these people thought that my life was a game, and I don't appreciate people devaluing me. Okay, it is not a game. Okay, it is real. Okay, and you just played a fool for the Nazis. Okay, so leave me alone. Anyway, what else do I want to say? I get the feeling there's a lot of people who are dealing with mental illness right now. Yeah. Okay, and this is what happens when we go against the system that has already been established. We have the best country here in the world. Okay, we have the best laws in the world. We have it all covered. Okay, so don't not try to swim upstream. Okay, anyway, is there anything else I want to say before I wrap this up? Okay, I do get the feeling that people recognize that I have demonstrated how mind control works and how ignorant society is. Okay, yeah, it is very ignorant, okay? But I'm trying to fix that problem, okay? And like I said, I'm still working on my project. I know that I'm running late, but I'm somebody who can usually roll out stuff pretty fast, okay? But this is like covering, certain forms of ethics. It's covering parenthood. It's covering school systems, choosing, talking about the kind of school expectations that parents should have, and what kind of teachers their children should look for. They want to have outstanding leaders in the school system. Okay, I'm trying to talk about as many issues as I possibly can in the moral reset. Okay, so I kept thinking, I'll have that out by May. No, there's too many situations that we go through on a day-to-day basis to sit there and wrap that up. I'm doing the best I can, but I'm also trying to, demonstrate how we can try to expedite, things like career tracks. Like, I have basically created my own curriculum because I was bullied outside of the school system, and I feel as though it's worked. Okay, so what if we created different pathways to excellence, like to pursue certain careers that once required 4-year degrees, can we make it into 2 years instead of 4? Can we make it more and make it more interactive? Meaning, so this is just me coming up with ideas to submit to the state and whoever is interested in hearing it, because I really do want to contribute towards because this is my, what do you call it, my last skit. Like, I'm not coming back to Earth. Okay, I don't want to come back to Earth. I do think that there's a lot of these religions have done a crappy job at attending their flock. They have caused a lot of pain, a lot of heartache. They have led a lot of people to hate their jobs, hate their lives, and even worse, hate their families. Okay, there's a lot of people who created families with these kingdom spouses, and they ended up resenting them, not being able to get out of abusive relationships, producing children, and having to be stuck in that relationship. Let me tell you, religion has done things to use people for their own benefit. Thank you so very much for helping the Nazi agenda. Anyway, now I'm going to wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Until then, Mr. President, I do hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful Saturday, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.